Hi everybody. So I've been doing some research on intrusive thoughts and how they can cause physical symptoms and compulsive urges. Um, my mind processes things really weird. So how normal people would probably read through something um, and process just the meaning of it, my mind seems to delve deeper kind of thing, and relay that onto a personal level. Um, and kind of like a layman's terms in my head so I can figure out and realize what I'm doing. Um, so I've been having intrusive thoughts, really bad intrusive thoughts, that have been causing my depression to get worse, have been causing my anxiety to get worse. Um, After reading through some of the literature that I've read through, there was a guy called Dr. Schmaltz that does the 4 steps, which is to help with obsessive compulsive disorder and obsessive thoughts. And after reading through some of the literature, um, it kind of makes sense. So I think the first thing people need to realize and need to understand is it's not your fault, okay? It's a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's not something that you create yourself. So, for one, take that worry away that it's your fault because it's not your fault. You're not a bad person. These thoughts do not portray who you are. Everybody has random thoughts every day, thousands and thousands of random thoughts every day. What happens is a normal mind will be able to see the thought, acknowledge it, and allow it to go back out again. With an anxious and depressed mind or an OCD mind, um, them thoughts start to ruminate. Okay, um, ruminating, I found out, is actually what a cow does when it chews food. So, kind of makes sense. It just goes round and round, kind of thing. Um, what I've came to realize from reading through all the literature uh, is that even though these thoughts aren't your fault, it's in your power to be able to control the thoughts in a sense. Not control the thoughts by fighting them, because when you tell yourself not to think about something, you automatically begin to think about it more than if you even didn't tell yourself not to think about it. Um, the way to challenge the thoughts is you have to kind of train your mind to realize that the thoughts are thoughts and they're only thoughts, like the normal mind would see them as, that they're just thoughts. Okay. Um, it becomes hard because I know myself and my personal experiences that anytime I go into a situation where I feel like there's any sort of danger or I feel like there's any sort of hurt that can come to myself, I begin to get anxious. My anxiety then rises to a level where I just have the feeling that I need to get out of the situation. Um, the problem is because if I leave the situation quickly, I allow my anxiety to go down again. But what happens is I become more anxious about the situation, and then I get depressed that I've come out of the situation, so I end up getting more anxious anyway about the depression. Um, so the steps I'm going to be taking is I'm going to be learning how to stay in situations and allow my anxiety to physically run out itself rather than not staying in the situation and becoming scared of the situation. Two, I'm going to work on making my mind, my conscious mind, realize that these thoughts are not representations of my actions. So I've gone throughout my whole life without doing anything bad or hurting anybody. Um, and that is me as a person, okay? I'm a compassionate person. I've always been a compassionate person. I'll speak to anybody on a level. So I would help anybody out. So I know that these thoughts aren't me, okay? Problem is, I've been trying to pull myself away from the thought and trying to ignore the thought, which is the worst thing possible because, like I say, you tell yourself not to think about something, you think about it even more. So what I'm going to do is, when I get these thoughts, I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to say to myself in my own head, I'm not going to argue with the thought because the worst thing to do is argue with the thought. But I'm going to gently challenge them. I'm going to say to myself, this is because I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. This thought isn't a representation of who I am. Okay? It's a representation of my OCD, of what I have. It's a representation of my depression. It's a representation of my anxiety. It's not a representation of me as a person. Because I know, and you'll probably know yourself, that anyone with OCD, anxiety, depression, they're usually the nicest people in the world. Okay? The reason they're the nicest people in the world because they've been through a hell of a lot. They've struggled through a hell of a lot. They've struggled through an invisible illness, something that on a normal day nobody else can see. Okay, there's no one else around you can see. You feel like you're alone. Okay, thing is, you're not alone. I've came to realize that you're not alone, because there's millions and millions of people going through exactly the same thing that you are. They're not processing it in the same way because every mind is unique, but it doesn't mean that what helps somebody else wouldn't help somebody else just because their mind's different. Because even though your mind's different, you can take different approaches to using things to help you. So I urge, but not compulsively, for everybody to take some time and learn the thoughts they have and learn about them, because I realize with knowledge comes power, kind of like the Spider-Man quote. But it's true. With knowledge comes power. With knowledge, with knowing something, you then become more aware and more understanding of what's happening to you. I'd like to tell you here that I'm here all the time. I'm constantly trying to find new ways to make myself feel better. And I'll keep constantly trying to find new ways to help you lot feel better as well, because I think the road to recovery